Hey guys, Chad Hoover, Kayak Bass Fishing. Welcome back. We're doing some winter videos right now. It's really not that cold outside where I live, and this winter has been more like a really long fall. So I'm telling you guys a lot of the things that I do that may not apply where you live if you think that you have to fish when it is moderate. I'll just say that the variations that I make have been less varied this year because of the fact that I'm wearing flip-flops in January. So it's not that cold here. It's in the 50s today, and really we've only had a few days when it's been super cold. So a lot of my like hardcore go-to tactics I haven't had to go to. I've kept it pretty well in the feeding window, and I've fished predominantly my peak times, and I've fished high percentage areas that I know for the fish that I wanted to catch this year. And more so, I've had less time to fish this winter than in past years because we're growing the brand, we're growing the business, we're moving into the new KBF headquarters here, and I've spent more time with family this year. So I'll just be, straight up honest with you. But let me talk to you about this technique that over the years has produced me some giants, okay? And it is something that I learned by watching an angler by fishing next to him in the wintertime. We pulled up on a, I don't want to call it a ledge, I'll call it a slope. So I pulled up on a slope and I was throwing a jig. I was actually playing around with a jig, a twig. I had thrown a deep diving crankbait. I basically had played with all of the stuff that I thought would work on that spot. And I watched this angler take a really long rod with a long handle on it. He does a snap cast. Woo! Just throws this, this lure, which at the time I didn't know what it was, a country mile. And then I watch him, boom, almost looks like he's fishing a Carolina rig. And then I see these big sweeping hook sets. And I'm like, nice one, man. I do the whole courteous thing, but like not asking, but kind of asking, because you know how fishermen are. Fishermen are either like super secretive or they want to tell you everything in the world. So after about the third or fourth, dude, nice fish. He's like, yeah, man. Hey, let me tell you what I'm catching it on. And that's when you're like, ding, because if you ask, a lot of times an angler will be like, yeah, man, sorry, I'm fishing a tournament in 2 weeks and I really would prefer not to. But if you don't ask, so I guess this is like a tip within a tip. If you don't ask, it's kind of like playing hard to get with a girl. If you act like you're not interested and you're like, you don't care, whatever, then it kind of psychologically does something to them. So then they wonder why you're not interested. So then they try to make you interested. And as long as you incrementally show interest, you'll keep them interested in making you interested. Does that make sense? So anyway, let's go back to the lures and fishing. But it's a lot of the same stuff. You got to entice the big girls into eating. And so that's what we're trying to do here. Not that you have to entice big girls in our world into eating per se. Anyway, I'm going to stay off of that path. I apologize if anyone was offended up to this point, and I have recognized my wrong, and I'm going back into fishing. So, love y'all. Okay, back to the spoon. So I watch this cat like bam, 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 and I say, nice fish. After the third time, he tells me, hey, let me show you what I'm doing. I was like, you want me to come over there? He's like, yeah, man, come over. Well, really what I find out later is he wants to check out my kayak as much as he wants me to show him what I'm fishing. So the kayak also has a way of getting me into some conversations that produces more fish for me, even if I didn't figure it out myself. So a lot of people go, dude, can I check out that kayak? And I paddle over and I tell them about it, and then they tell me where they're fishing. Hey, you know what, man? There's a slough back here about 3 miles back. I can't ever get into it. You ought to try that with a kayak sometime. I can't tell you how many times I find an unbelievable place to fish by a boat angler telling me where they can fish, where they can't fish that they wish they could, but I could. And then I go in there, we exchange information, and I text them a picture of a giant like 2 weeks later. So anyway, back to the spoon. This is going to be the longest get to the topic video that I've ever done. So this guy, when I go over there, he shows me this box, okay? It's like a box like this DZ poly chest that I'm using here. It's not a tackle box, it's a box, right? I think he had a crafts box that he had gotten from like Michael's, and it was just loaded with all these spoons. He starts picking spoons up and handing them to me. I like gold when the water's stained. I like black at night. I like this and that. And he said, but man, one of my go-tos is this blue chrome and just something about it. They really love it. Heron lakes, it's pretty much representing that. Shad, it's representing that. Any fish that's eating anything that's shiny and blue pretty much is universal. But he shows me this lure, okay, and this is a Nichols, and this thing is just phenomenal lure. But don't think about the particular lure. This is not me endorsing a specific lure. This is me endorsing the concept. The reason these things work is they cast a country mile. I think of these more as a search lure to find stuff and to find fish, or if you've got a big school, and an activation lure. If you've got a school of fish that are not active, okay, and you've thrown something through them and you want to activate them, throw that spoon out. Let it clank down on a rock. Let it clank down and hit the bottom. Or more importantly, throw it out there and just scoot it. And it'll kick up silt. And that's the reason that I like a little agitator, okay? So a lot of people think, man, I ain't ever seen a bass eat something that big. Trust me when I tell you they do. Their mouth ain't that big around so that they can swallow like minnows. It's that big around so they can eat a freaking meal. But this little agitator right here gets me a lot of fish when I throw this thing out and it wobbles along and it hits the bottom. And when I scoot it, okay, and this will be a lot tighter. I've been throwing this out in the grass just to show a kid the other day how to use it. But when you scoot it along, this thing is buoyant. So it activates and it kind of moves around. I've had fish swim up and just grab it, just like that. And they think they're grabbing this, but they grab that hook point and I hook them through the nose and I catch them with the entire spoon out of their mouth. And the reason that I know that is because it was sitting dead still on the bottom. So that's one thing, okay? This is a little hitchhiker, which is basically just a little screw on. When I mess up a swim bait hook, or if I need these, I just buy them separately. I just save these. I save them in a little 35 millimeter film canister, like old film used to come in. For you young bucks, film is what they used to use to make pictures before everybody had a camera in their pocket. So film canisters, 35 millimeter film canisters, work great for saving these. But you can also just take a little piece of foam and stick them in there and throw them in your tackle box. So that little hitchhiker is great. You can use this for a multitude of different things. But let me show you a tactic that I use quite frequently with this lure setup that works like a champ. And I've got this lure right here because I'm going to show you another, like, oh my God, that I came up with last year. So I like these big oversized flukes. Now, I like this in an Arkansas shiner. I like it in different colors, but I grabbed this, this is a 7-foot mag white ice. And I grabbed this one because it's got some crystal flash in it, and I knew it would show up good on camera. But because I've got chrome here, a lot of times I'll use a darker oversized fluke, so I've got the contrast of the dark bait and the shiny weight, so when it, or the shiny spoon, so that when it's falling to the bottom, I get a bit of contrast. So let me just show you how I set this up. What I usually do is push my weed guard down and I kind of decide where that hook needs to go through. And I like the hook to go through right before that transition in the bait. So what I do is I just bring the hook back there and I kind of mark it, okay? Okay, that's where it needs to go through. All right, that's good. And then I just take my weed guard, okay? And this is another one of those times you need to wet it. It makes the bait go on there nice and easy. And then what I do is I hold the bait so I don't kink it, okay? And I just slide that weed guard right inside. Now, when you fish these flukes as standalone baits and they tear up, take a Ziploc bag with you or in your junk drawer in your kayak, or put a little cubby hole, or take a cup and stick it in your center console so that you can save these things. They're expensive for one. And you do what I call a rebate concept, where you just cut the nose off and then you can use it for things like this and you get multi-purpose out of it. So after you tear it up from fishing it Texas rig, or after you tear it up from fishing it weightless or whatever, save it and you can use it for this technique right here, and you don't have to waste a brand new fluke like I'm doing for this video. Hope you guys appreciate the sacrifices that I make. But so anyway, so what I do is slide that on that weed guard. I slide it back about like that, and I press it down until I get the hook to come through, or it looks like it's going to come through right where I want it. And then you just simply force this thing over, bring your hook point through, and you get it to lay right on top, just like that, okay? The cool thing about this setup is you can always tweak your weed guard, and you can always mess around with that until you get it just right. That's going to make this big old spoon now weedless. This is going to pull double duty. It gives you something else for contrast. It allows you to lay it on the bottom, and every time you move the hook tip, or every time you jiggle the line or move the rod tip, it brings that lure to life by kicking that tail around, okay? You can inject air in here. Another trick that you can use is take floating fly line, and you can take a piece of it and thread it through there and then clip it off on both sides with your clipper, and it'll make that tail float up, and it'll give it more action when you're dead sticking that spoon. Man, the tip within the tip game is strong today. So I don't know if you guys like these kind of videos. If you do, smash the thumbs up smash that thumbs up button right now. Don't wait to the end and forget about it and go off to the next video. Then I don't get a thumbs up out of the deal, but you got all this knowledge. Smash that thumbs up button right now. Leave a comment in the comment section below if you like this kind of content. Okay, so in a lot of cases, I don't have the time to stop when I'm on the water and completely go through all of the different scenarios. So what I'll do is when I use this in a tactic video, when I'm out on the water, I'll cut back to this video where I'll do something like, hey guys, if you want to see more about this tactic, click on the link in the description box. And then we'll do the little ting off of my tooth kind of a thing, you know what I'm saying? And we'll cut back. And because I'm losing so much weight, you guys will be like, holy crap, in that cutback video, dude, you were fat. And I have no problem if you put dude, you were fat comments in the videos. Now, it's a little bit hurtful and demotivating when you put dude, you are fat comments in the existing video that I'm doing, but we'll find a balance. I'm a happy person. I can take it. I don't care. So anyway, the reason I'm doing these videos is to bring you this type of content when I can bring you this content. And I'm also selfish as a fisherman. When I'm catching fish, for the most part, I don't want to stop and spend 27 minutes talking about it. I want to just keep doing it, right? So I'm just like you. I'm one of you. I'm a fisherman. So when I get out there, I don't want to stand around and sit down for 45 minutes when there's bass blowing up around me. I want to fish. So we're going to do more of this so that we can do more of that. And when we do that, we can refer back to stuff like this. So this is deadly, okay? This is nasty. This is one of the best winter fishing tactics that I know of for big fish, okay? So this is one of those toad tips. If you're trying to catch the biggest fish out there, it might not catch a dink, but I can tell you right now, when this thing's sitting on bottom and it's got a low profile and they see that and it looks like a bait fish just feeding on the bottom or scooting along and I scoot it, kicks up some silt and they see that, I don't know how many times little ones grab that and turn and I hook them right in the corner of the mouth and I get them on this big old spoon. I've literally caught fish the size of the spoon on the spoon, but this thing casts a country mile. You hold your rod tip up and real slow as it's going down, you keep it in the water column so you can fish it all the way through. I use a countdown every time I cast this thing so that I know where I'm getting the strike. I figure out what my descent rate is. I talked about it in another video. If I've got this plastic on there, it's less than a foot a second. If I don't, it's more than a foot a second. So you can tweak your fall rate by adding the plastic, because as this thing's fluttering, this is creating lift and buoyancy, and it makes it fall through the resistance, and it makes it fall through the water column slower. So that also can elicit strikes when maybe the spoon wouldn't, or vice versa. So you have to experiment a bit. But this tactic right here, if you're gonna say, hey man, what's your number one secret, go-to, absolutely gotta catch them, big fish winter tactic? I'm not gonna tell you it's that. I'm gonna tell you it's that right there. It's a 1/2 ounce jig with a Zako trailer on it. And it's because this is way more versatile, okay? But if you want to swing for the fence and you want to catch a fish on a lure that everybody else isn't fishing, if you want to switch it up a bit, if you want to have a slower fall rate, if you want to fish the water column all the way through, if you want to search bait that's going to give you a little bit more diversity, then I would tell you that this is one of the top baits, one of the things that I go to in the wintertime, late fall, all the way through the winter, back around and even up into the very last parts of pre-spawn, because in a lot of cases on pre-spawn situations, those fish are trying to get the most return on investment for the least amount of expended energy. So this thing gets fished where I live 6 months, 5.5 months out of the year and produces. And then in the summertime, you can go deep with it again. So add a couple spoons to your arsenal. You can go as big as the giant nickels. You can go to the spoon doctors. You can go to the different companies out there like Yellowbird. There's a lot of them out there. The Strike King sexy spoons with the trail hook, the treble hook on the back. I'll sometimes cut those off, put a split ring on there, add a treble hook, add a weedless hook and throw a fluke on there. What's crazy about these lures is there's unlimited amount of modifications that you can do. You can just tie some flash on the back. Again, you can use the hitchhiker. One last tip, and I'm gonna get out of here, is you can take this thing off of here, and I'm gonna tell you about this bait by itself because it's phenomenal. This bait is the Wreck-'em Baits Twerk minnow. It's not named after Miley Cyrus, it's just named after the action. The way that I got this thing rigged right here is how I had it rigged when I was fishing it a couple weeks ago. This is basically just a screw lock swim bait, weightless swim bait hook, and I like to hook it through the side to make it just fall, and when I twitch it, it just does all kinds of crazy, off the wall, erratic darting, but then when I slow swim it, that tail just thumps and kicks, and when I let it hit the bottom and I kick it up, it's just phenomenal. But I've played around with it this year, and I've caught 2 decent fish on taking that Twerk minnow, especially after the nose gets torn up, and you can really glue it back together forever. You can take a lighter and heat it up and it goes back, but after I've got as much mileage out of it as I think I'm gonna get, I do the same thing with it, rig it on that spoon, bring that hook through the side. It just makes a big old chunk of something for them to eat. That tail slows that descent down even more. It lowers the fall rate. You can slow reel it through the water column once you figure out what depth they're at. And so that little combination right there is deadly. So if you're not spoon feeding them, okay, if you're not throwing a spoon, I mean, I'm not gonna say you're wrong, because you can catch them a lot of different ways, but you could be more righter. You could be righter or more right by just adding a spoon to your arsenal. So anyway, guys, I'm Chad Hoover. Hope you're enjoying these types of videos. If you do, smash that thumbs up if you didn't do so earlier in the video when I asked you to do it. I'm gonna keep asking you because, listen, it takes a little bit of effort from you. It means a whole lot to me. So smash that thumbs up button, click that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and you know, it helps us grow the channel. It helps you, helps me bring you more content. Because, you know, we're all like, we like to be patted on the back every now and then. So, you know, give me a little pat on the back for the content that I'm putting out by smashing that thumbs up button. Heck, leave a comment below and then go comment on a couple of comments. Because all that stuff, some way, some shape, form, or fashion, helps the channel grow through the crazy algorithm in the sky. And anyway, I'll see you guys next time. I love y'all and appreciate all the support, as always, and hope to see you out on the water someday soon.